Well, it is 12:30 on Monday, August the 18th. I am Christopher Heath here for News 6 Extra. Off a couple of days, but back at it again. Kathleen is back as well. You were off on Friday. How was
I
your 3-day weekend?
I was, it was relaxing. I didn't do a lot, but it was relaxing. It was nice to just have some time to be away and just get some things done around the house.
Yeah, it's good to, I think people that don't live and breathe the news like we do realize, like, when we're off, like, you sometimes just unplug and you come back and everyone's like, "Did you hear what happened?" You're like, "No." I
I
checked out.
unplugged a little bit, but I
Okay.
still was in the know. But I did unplug a little bit. But you had a busy weekend.
I did. I had a very busy weekend. Let's see. Friday, I just got a lot of stuff done.
Hmm.
Saturday, I had the celebration of running a 5K downtown Orlando, and then
Nice.
on Sunday, my friends and I have done for the last 11 years. We run it's a 9-mile course through
Oh,
downtown Orlando that spells out UCF,
oh,
and
nice.
we did that. This is the 11th year we've done that, and it is brutally hot.
Oh, I'd imagine. I'm sweating and done with the heat just walking to my car. So I couldn't imagine doing two races this weekend.
The second one's not as much a race. The second one's a little more casual. We stop, we do water breaks. It's
Okay.
we're not as young as we used to be, even though we'd like to think so. But it was a good one. So anyway,
Nice.
but now back to the grind and
Back to the grind.
back to keeping an eye on the tropics. We have Hurricane Aaron out there strengthening into, what is it, Cat 4 now?
I
Cat
believe
3?
I believe so. Let's bring in David here. See
Yeah, let's
what
get David. David Nazario is joining us because we have a hurricane out there that we are tracking. What is it, Cat 4 now, or is it Cat 3?
It is a Cat 4. Honestly so glad. I'm sorry. I heard you all collabing about sweating out there. I was sweating in here just now because for some reason my mic was not cooperating. So I was over here like diffusing a bomb, so to speak, trying to get this thing to pop back up. But yes, Aaron is slowly but surely back on the strengthening train once again. And we're back up to 140-mile-an-hour winds in the center. And that pressure's dropped several millibars since the 8 a.m. update, now down to 935 millibars. So a fairly impressive storm still.
And at this point, we're tracking kind of the secondary and other effects that we might get from it, because again, it's going to churn up the waters and do some stuff, but it's not necessarily going to do a whole lot for us.
Thankfully, yeah, I actually have the latest info right here in front of me. We'll go ahead and get you the latest advisory now.
Yeah.
You take a look from what we have at National Hurricane Center, still moving west-northwest. We've seen a lot of little nudges off towards the west as well. This has kind of been on the left-hand side of the forecast track for a little while now. No cause for alarm. I know across social media, whenever this thing jogs a little to the left, like these naturally powerful hurricanes tend to do when you're watching their general track, especially just from the naked eye on satellite, doesn't mean it's going against the forecast. We are still on track. And if you look at that dotted line there on the map here, you can see that even though we've shimmied and rattled and rolled left and right, we're still generally moving northerly as opposed to more westerly. And it's going to continue to pick up that forward progress as it does so. Let's take a quick look at the visible satellite, because even though we have seen a little bit of weakening with this feature, it's still a very impressive hurricane. And as we get a little bit of a nudge in the moisture department, the further north this goes with some additional moisture coming off the United States, it's going to get bigger in terms of diameter. So here in Central Florida, it'll primarily be a coastal issue for us. We won't really feel anything. Further inland you go, and more or less, you won't really see much of anything along the coast unless you're in the water. It's going to be the way the water along our beaches behaves, and I do think we're in for some chop as this continues to move north-northwesterly right up against our coast and does expand in some size. Here's a look at the latest forecast track, courtesy of National Hurricane Center. We are expecting a little bit in terms of strengthening once again, possibly up to a 145-mile-an-hour solid Cat 4 when we see the sun set tonight here in Central Florida, before beginning to slowly pick up some forward progress once it gets beyond the state of Florida, moving up closer to the mid-Atlantic, as well as the island of Bermuda, hopefully threading the needle right in between. And then once the jet stream coming off the United States can pick this puppy back up, it'll ricochet off towards the northeast, hopefully making no landfall, and will primarily just be a contributor in terms of fluffing the numbers up that we can talk about post-hurricane season. Now, stick with us because I want to talk to you all about what's behind Aaron. That's the kicker. I have a great article going live right now, as a matter of fact, over on clickorlando.com. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but let's get you in for some local weather. Here's the radar outside right now. Not a whole lot happening, but later on today, we're definitely going to see some blossoming of the thunderstorms as we get towards the warmest parts of the afternoon, and especially between the 5 and 6 o'clock hour, which could cause some impacts as we're on our way home, both from the office and from school later this afternoon. And now, if you look, we actually have been picking up some pretty hefty rain totals in spotty locations across portions of Volusia, Seminole, Orange, and Polk County. It's unfortunate that none of our main observation sites really pick up on those rainfall totals, but reason I bring that up is as we go through the day today, we're actually underneath another risk for some excessive rainfall, courtesy of Weather Prediction Center. The positive news of all this rain, though, y'all remember this graphic, right? From earlier on in the spring and then into the first half of summer, we had drought conditions almost everywhere in Central Florida, and now those are pretty much non-existent at this point. The western half of the peninsula still seeing a little bit of those drought conditions, only at the dry level at this point, just because our sea breeze hasn't been behaving in traditional fashion thanks to all this heat and that subtropical high pressure ridging that was responsible for some of the excessive heat that we've been seeing. Speaking of heat, here's where our temperatures sit right now. We're sitting right about at the threshold of 90 degrees for many of us. A few of us already seeing those feels-like temperatures rocketing up into the triple digits. Wildwood coming in with a heat index of 106 right now. Kissimmee, where I grew up, sitting at a whopping 100. Same with Melbourne, Mico, and Cape Canaveral. Daytona Beach also at 100. And if you notice, Cocoa Beach also edging the battle in terms of being second best or second hottest out there across the peninsula. The forecast highs are going to go up a little bit more than where we sit right now. Orlando topping out at 94, same with Kissimmee and Lakeland. Palm Coast and Daytona Beach, Cape Canaveral are definitely in the running for being your cooler spots thanks to that onshore flow. And we can't forget New Smyrna Beach. And the heat index forecast for today, still hot, all things considered, but a little bit more tame than we've seen the last 7 to 10 days. We've definitely been oscillating back and forth, and it's all thanks to that ridging that just remains in place. We have a lot of warm water right up against the eastern seaboard of the U.S., and especially in the Gulf off our west coast. And as a result, that's what's helping to kind of intensify some of those heat conditions that we see during the daytime and early overnight hours. Now, here's your rain chances, and you can see interior Florida is where you want to be if you want to get some additional rain. West Coast and East Coast immediate, you're not going to see as much as we get that sea breeze collision in traditional fashion later on this afternoon between the hours of 4 and 8 p.m. And as I'd mentioned, if you look at Weather Prediction Center's excessive rainfall outlook for the day today, from Gainesville all the way down to Lakeland, central and southern Polk County, the southern, or I should say the eastern, sorry, I can't think of a compass right now. The western halves of Seminole, Orange, and Osceola are also underneath that potential for an excessive rainfall effect later on this afternoon. I'll take you hour by hour now using our future clouds and rain forecast. And you can see right now, models are kind of showing a little bit of onshore flow. Now, that's not quite what's happening just yet, which is why it's crucial if you are going to look at a computer model, you take a look at what that initial panel shows. So it's showing a little bit of spotty activity off the northeast coast there, but we haven't quite seen that just yet. It's later on to about 2, 3 o'clock where you finally start to see things come to a bit of a simmer, and then eventually by 5 p.m., we're at a hot boil from areas like Gainesville, Ocala, the Villages, and then back down towards the Four Corners counties. And this is where we're going to continue to rock and roll until just after sunset. You can see by 8, 9 o'clock, we're finally starting to see most of the showers and storms diminish. And again, classic fashion for this time of the year here in Central Florida. And Hurricane Aaron might do us a little favor in the moisture department for us as well. If you take a look at the available moisture we have in the atmosphere, as Aaron moves off towards the north, it's going to help to kind of tug down a little bit of extra moisture from up over the Gulf Coast states, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, and bring it back across the state of Florida. So we may actually see our rain chances go up a little bit more once we get to the back end of this week into your next weekend. All right, so I don't take up too much more time. I'm going to kind of rapid fire here. I just want to talk about that next feature really fast. The kicker, the common denominator, is going to be Aaron. What Aaron does is going to heavily dictate how this next feature behaves if and when it starts to organize. As of 8 a.m. this morning, we have a 50% shot in the next 7 days that this takes on the next name, Fair Non. We're going to have a lot of fun trying to say that both on camera and behind the scenes. Messy appearance out there. We have 3 individual pieces of energy trying to win out, see which one is actually going to try to break off from that area in the tropics and try to get going into a much more organized area of low pressure. And in my article today, I had mentioned if you have anybody, friends, family, whoever down in the Caribbean islands who were just impacted by Hurricane Aaron, we're going to have to watch this one. It definitely looks like, at least during early in its life cycle, it will mimic more or less where Aaron tracked, and very well possibly further to the south, putting the Leeward Islands, the U.S. British Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico a little bit more in immediate direction for this feature to try to track through. So we're going to be watching it very closely. Truthfully, models are still a little split, and that's probably because Aaron just does not want to cooperate and get up out of here before we can actually say, peace out, we'll see you next time. You can see looking down the road at our GFS tropical winds, you can see that area trying to form up as it moves past Puerto Rico, and then that's where we hit the fork in the road. Some computer models think this is one for us in Central Florida to pay attention to, keep an eye on, but obviously the vote is still out in terms of how Aaron is going to manipulate the weather pattern. Find more of the details on that over on clickorlando.com, but for now, I'll leave you with your 7-day forecast. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, continuing that isolated threat for showers and storms. And then as you can see, Thursday through to this upcoming weekend, we start to see those rain chances start to slowly tick back up as we get a little bit of help from the west side of Aaron, bringing in that northerly flow, pushing more moisture into our neighborhood.
Oh, it's that time of year when it's one after another after another. It's almost like you're an air traffic controller over there, David. You've got them all lined up coming at us.
Yeah, exactly. Aaron is the
Hopefully they keep
conductor on this train right now, so we got to see what she does.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they keep taking that exit ramp right out into the Atlantic and just stay offshore. All right, David, thank you as always. One of the other stories we're keeping an eye on right now is the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Of course, back on February 24th, 2022, Russia invaded its neighbor, and since then, the violence has been widespread. On Friday, President Trump met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska. That meeting did not end with any kind of a ceasefire agreement in place. And so today we have the president meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington, D.C. Aaron Navarro reports.
President Trump will welcome Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the White House today for talks about ending the war with Russia.
And what it's going to take to stop the fighting, if we're being honest and serious here, is both sides are going to have to give, and both sides should expect to get something from this. And that's a very difficult thing to do.
The meeting follows Trump's Alaska summit with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Trump headed into Friday's talks, insisting on a ceasefire first. He left on the same page with Putin, posting on social media, quote, "The best way to end a horrific war is to go directly to a peace agreement." Zelensky says that just gives Russia more time to carry out deadly attacks.
It's impossible to do this under the pressure of weapons. So it's necessary to cease fire and work quickly on a final deal.
Trump administration officials say talks with Zelensky will focus on possible land concessions in order to secure a peace deal. Zelensky says he'd like to speak to Putin directly about that.
Since the territorial issue is so important, it should be discussed only by the leaders of Ukraine and Russia at the trilateral Ukraine, United States, Russia. So far, Russia gives no sign that trilateral will happen.
Putin told Trump on Friday that Russia wants all of the land it has seized during fighting and then some. That has raised concerns from some European leaders, and several are joining the White House in talks this afternoon.
Premier pilier de ces garanties de sécurité.
French President Emmanuel Macron said their primary reason for attending is to guarantee the security of Ukraine if and when a peace settlement can be reached. Aaron Navarro, CBS News, the White House.
And of course, of the main sticking points as we work our way through this is that Russia wants Crimea, wants much of the Donbass region, and wants a guarantee that Ukraine will not join NATO. And for a lot of European leaders who have really stepped up their purchase of U.S. munitions to send to Ukraine, that is a bit of a non-starter. So we'll see exactly where this all goes. Well, back here at home, Dozens of people are trying to find a new place to live. Last week, we first told you about how the Howard Johnson Hotel on I Drive was on the brink of getting shut down. The city had been notified that there was a non payment of also reports of smoke detectors not functioning. And so, for the people who live at this hotel that offers weekly rates, many of them, as you can see in this video here, suddenly having to find a new place to live in on very short time, some with animals, some with young children, and of course, very much not the kind of situation you want to have sprung upon you heading into a weekend with only a couple of days to get out. But with the city coming through and saying, listen, these hotels, motels, these rooms are not habitable. You need to move out. A lot of people now today being told they have to get out. 10 o'clock this morning was kind of the cutoff for leaving the hotel, and several people still trying to get the last of their stuff and get out and hopefully find somewhere to live. Mike Valenti was there live for us at noon. He will have a updated report coming up on News 6 at 4 o'clock. And we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back. And welcome back to News 6 Extra. It was originally Johnny Lee who recorded the song Looking for Love, looking for love in all the wrong places. Of course, a more modern version of that same kind of thing would probably be Lady Gaga with Bad Romance. I say all of that to set up Lewis Bolden's latest Schemes and Ripoffs report with an alert from the Federal Trade Commission about romance scams online, people posing as someone they're not to try and take money out of those just looking for love, and one Central Florida woman who lost $60,000.
It was like pen pals. We were just talking innocently.
On Facebook, Carol West thought she was talking to a decorated Army officer, a commanding 4-star general who claimed to be deployed in South Korea.
Sent me pictures of him in his uniform and sent me pictures of his dog tags, his driver's license, his passport.
The messages came multiple times a day and became more intimate.
It's exciting. I would sit up and wait for him to text me.
But the texts took a turn. He had a box full of precious Army medals, but having them securely shipped back to the U.S. would cost $7,500, he said. West agreed to send it. He wanted it sent via gift and gaming cards. She bought the cards, lots of them, but the items supposedly got stuck in customs in Mexico, and the Mexican government needed $30,000 in cash.
So like a fool, I cashed in my only CD I had and mailed the cash.
Over 6 weeks, she sent more than $60,000. It was only when her bank accounts were empty did she realize it was a scam.
I was sick. I was sick to my stomach. How could I fall for this?
West is by no means alone. According to the FTC, last year in Florida, there were almost 3,400 reports of romance scams, and Floridians lost nearly $93 million. To protect yourself, never send money to someone you've only met online. The Volusia County Sheriff's Office tells me there could be an arrest in this case soon, so stay tuned. Remember, don't fall for the scheme, don't get ripped off, but if you do, email me at theinvestigators@WKMG.com. I'm Lewis Bolden, News 6.
And Lewis does such a great job on those reports, and you see them and you kind of watch them from the outside, and you're like, you feel bad for the people because again, this starts with trying to find a connection, trying to find love out there, and very sad. So hopefully she does get her money back. Well, back to school is now in week 2 for those in K through 12, or week 1 if you're one of the college students who today is back to class. And it's exciting time for a lot of kids, but a lot of kids are also still worried about trying to graduate on time. As Stephanie Rodriguez reports from Osceola County, a new school is taking this in a new direction.
I'm here at Vineland Lakes High School, the newest tuition-free public school here in Osceola County. Soon they'll be moving into this brand new space behind me, but until then, they're hitting the ground running, giving students a different way to graduate.
My heart and soul is happy, not just to be in Osceola County, but just overall, because I know that the work that we do has so much value.
Dr. Tiana Coleman and her staff work with Second Mile, an organization that helps districts create accelerated learning schools.
And what we really do is help those students that need to catch up on credits, so that they can achieve their goal of graduation.
Through individualized courses, teachers help them earn credits and grow.
You're allowed to, we wear many hats, so we're allowed to be the doctor, the counselor, the teacher, the pastor, like everything.
We know where they're coming from and any little other tidbits that may be needed in order to help them be successful. And also with our curriculum, it can be translated into over 36 languages.
17-year-old Otto Rivera is a soon-to-be success story.
My plan is to graduate in December.
He just transferred to Vineland Lakes from another Second Mile school. And as he prepares to cross the finish line, he encourages others to follow his footsteps.
Just because I fell behind too, and now that I came here, I'm right on path and even further than what I'm supposed to be.
They offer rolling enrollment, which means you can come down here and sign your child up. They also have flexible schedules and offer help with transportation. We'll have more details at clickorlando.com. I'm your Osceola County community correspondent, Stephanie Rodriguez, News 6.
All right, so from the nightmare of showing up to school without your homework or showing up to school naked to nightmares in general, Tina Kraus has a story here for us on the science of nightmares and the art of nightmares.
When dark dreams creep into sleep, most people would rather forget. But at the world's largest psychiatric hospital in England, nightmares are the main attraction.
When we think about the kind of dreams that we remember, they tend to be quite anxiety focused. We may be chased commonly, or we're running away from something.
Much of the work on display at Bethlehem Museum of the Mind was created by patients, some of it dating back centuries. Sleep researchers have now matched common dreams across cultures with pieces from the hospital's collection.
You can see a bicycle here falling off a cliff.
Director Colin Gale explains how one former patient used art to reveal haunting hallucinations.
What he did was painted for his doctors scenes that tried to explain to them all of his preoccupations and difficulties, all the many nightmares that dogged him at the time.
Not all the pieces are paintings. There are dream journals from a psychiatrist, and this more modern, crumpled creation about insomnia.
What I hope people get from this piece of work is that they're not alone in what they're feeling. Everybody has experienced insomnia in some way.
But when we finally drift off, researchers say while nightmares may scare us, they can hold clues to better understand our mental health. Tina Kraus, CBS News, London.
All right, Kathleen, any of that resonate with you? You pretty sound sleeper? Or are you restless?
I toss and turn a lot, but don't have insomnia. I just kind of get antsy. It takes a little bit to fall asleep. But I do have reoccurring dreams, and they're always along the same lines where an assignment is due or paper is due, and I don't have it done. And so that I always wake up in a panic.
Stress dreams. Yes, you're trying to get something accomplished, and the more you do, the less it seems to work. You know what? I haven't had a stress dream in a while. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I remember when I used to wait tables at Chili's, I would have the constant, like, tables are just like, orders are coming in, you can't ever get ahead. But for the most part, I gotta tell you, I don't really, like, when I wake up, there's like maybe a 30 to 40 second window where I remember what I was dreaming about, and then for whatever reason, it's gone.
Right.
So my wife, on the other hand, in vivid detail can tell you everything, and especially if I'm involved, then all of a sudden I get roped in with, and you were there and you said that she had it better, and I'm like, whoa, and I wasn't there.
It's like,
Let's
it's
get
just
things
a
straight
dream.
here.
Yeah.
It's just a dream, honey. Well, what you said wasn't very nice. Again,
Right.
just a dream, sweetie.
Right. I've been guilty of that myself, so.
Yes, you are now on the hook for whatever I imagined you did. You should feel
Right.
bad. Good times, good times. All righty, well, that is all our time today for News 6 Extra. I'm Chris Reed. Thank you, as always, to Kathleen for joining us, and David Nazario over in weather. We'll be back tomorrow to do this all over again. And, of course, we'll have news all the time on clickorlando.com. And, of course, News 6 will be on the air today starting at 4 o'clock. We'll have the very latest on the Howard Johnson being closed. Well, Howard Johnson, people being moved out of there, as well as any new developments out of D.C. as President Volodymyr Zelensky meets with President Donald Trump. So we'll have all of that for you starting at 4 o'clock. Otherwise, we'll see you back here tomorrow at 12:30. Have a good one. Bye.